Victoria Yofale, thank you for staying with us. Okun land is endowed with illustrious sons and daughters, and Ogidi as a community is not left out. So many illustrious sons and daughters. And today on Omoko of the Week, I have the rare privilege to host on set Elder O.S. Thomas of Ogidi. He's a national patron of Ogidi Development Association and former president of Ogidi Development Association. Thank you for having us today on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we'll start by who is Elder O.S. Thomas?
Well, just like you said, Elder O.S. Thomas, you are the one calling me that just myself Mr. O.S. Thomas. I'm just a citizen of Ogidi, and I was born here. My parents are from here, and I worked in both the private and the public sector, and by the grace of God, He has lifted me to where I am today, and I'm happy to be in your program.
Okay, thank you very much. So who were your parents and from what clan? That's where we'll start from.
Well, my mother is Miss Madam Esther Lige, and my father is the Chief Thomas Okun Elekia of Ogidi, and they all passed on 2 years ago. Of course, I have lived in a family that love each other, and we relate with each other very well, and that's just it.
Okay. Yeah. So, what was your childhood experience like?
Interesting, quite interesting. I grew up in Ogidi here. Okay. I'm not one of those. I wasn't lucky to have people to go out to and spend holidays. And so when I was in the primary school, my primary school was here in Ogidi, St. John's Anglican Primary School, from primary 1 to 7. Then we still had primary 7. And of course, after the primary school, I went to the government secondary school, later AMCO in Okun. And of course, during holidays, I come back home to help my parents. My mother was a trader. She traded in, she would take commodities like pepper, like gari, to patiji, and she would come back with fish, bushmeat to sell. Wow. Yeah, so those were the things she was trading. My father was a carpenter. And my father was one of those that built the oldest church in Nigeria, in Abeokuta. And she was the youngest of those who brought Christianity to this community. I'm sure that he must have worked with his own senior brother, Chief Jacob Baba Olowo, Chief Olowo of Ogidi, late Chief Olowo of Ogidi. So these are I have siblings, cousins that we relate very well, and I'm happy to be born into this family.
Yeah. That's interesting. Please, can you tell us about your educational background? Now, you just mentioned you went to St. John, you went from primary to university, and the course is done.
Yeah, interestingly, well, in the primary school, of course, like you know, we were doing all kinds of subjects. Went to the secondary school. I was in the science class in the secondary school. Two of the deputy governors, past deputy governors in Kogi State, were my classmates. We were classmates in the secondary school. Philip was also my classmate. Philip Solao.
Okay.
Yeah, we were all classmates in Okun those days. From there, I went to Kwara State College of Technology for my A-levels, where I studied what you could call social science now. After I did mathematics, economics, and geography at advanced level. From there, I was looking for a course that is going to combine these three cases, these three subjects. And I had estate management in mind. And one of my teachers now introduced me to what you call actuarial science. Actuarial science is mathematics of insurance.
Wow.
That's how I find myself having to go to the University of Lagos to study actuarial science. I was there for 3 years, graduated in 1981, and went back for my master's in finance, still in the University of Lagos. And since then, somehow, I'm one of the very few privileged individuals that since I started work in 1981, I've had just 4 months break.
Wow.
I have been working since 1981. I haven't had any break in service.
Please tell us about your working experience from the beginning.
Yeah, well, it's interesting also. I was, I finished school start in 1975.
Okay.
So while waiting for A-levels, I had to work in, I taught briefly in probably 1 or 2 months in nursery primary school, then went to then Kwara State Ministry of Finance. I was employed and posted to Lokoja. I worked in Lokoja in the local government. At some point, I was acting like the treasurer of a local government. I did that just for 1 year before my A-levels. Now, when I finished, of course, from my A-levels, I went to the university. After graduation, I served in Cross River State, now a combination of both Cross River and Akwa Ibom State. Thereafter, I moved back. My late uncle introduced me to the secretary to the Kwara State government, who also introduced me to the chief executive of Gateway Insurance. That was where I started my career. By the way, when I was serving, I worked in Manila Insurance in Calabar, but of course, when I came back, then in Ilorin, I joined Gateway Insurance Company from 1980, I think 82, yes, 82. Then in 83, in 85, I moved to Lagos. In 1985, I moved to financial assurance. In 1985, and I was there, worked there till 1991 when I moved to ICO Insurance. I worked in ICO Insurance, I rose to the assistant general manager, and I left in 1993 for the federal government, a job where I was appointed as general manager and later director. I became a director at, I think, about 32 years ago. I was about the youngest then. I worked, of course, when you get there early, you stay there. I was there, I was a director in the public service for 17 years. And I retired in 2010. 2009. I retired in 2009. I came to the private sector. I was appointed the Director General of Nigeria Insurance Association. And in 2017, His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, appointed me as a Deputy Commissioner, the NICOM. And in 2020, last year, I was appointed as the Commissioner for Insurance.
Wow. I've discovered with my little interaction with you that you're so passionate about your community. So what brought about the passion for community development?
No, I used to tell people, apart from my place of work, the only place I have is my community. That's the only place that is permanent. When they talk of permanent home address, they are talking about where some people have made other communities their permanent home address. This is my permanent home address. And I have every reason to make sure I look after this place. This kind of structure, I will not put it anywhere. No, I would rather put it in my community. This is where all of us are ending up. So why not look after it? Look after the place. And again, some of the people you left here are not privileged to have the kind of life that you're living outside. If the kind of life we're living outside will bring it here, the community will be a better place for it. And that is why I will do anything to bring development to our community.
And they love you so much for that.
They
love you so much for that. That's a good one. So can you tell us about your experience as the former president of ODA?
Well, one of the most difficult things to do is to bring people together. But somehow we've gotten along. I've had the support of my friends and my brothers, like Barrister Femi Olontoba, like APS, like Shegun Okonewu, like we have a lot of my brothers that have supported us. Joab is also one of us, and Dele, we have Kolawole, we have a lot of them. Ade, So when you have such people, you are not afraid to embark on initiatives that brings about development to the community, because you always have their support any day, any time. And again, as the then president of ODA, it was a thing of joy, because we just push ourselves to do things. We see things in the environment that requires attention, and we give it all the necessary attention. That we push ourselves. Not that we don't. None of us. I mean, we don't have any. Of course, we know that we don't have any rich person around here. When we talk about rich people, we don't have anybody around here. We are yet, and we are believing God that one day we have somebody who will be able to, take over some of these things, expand resources to bring about development into our community. So the little that we can do on our own, we're just pushing and making sure that we do our best.
This lady is so great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So we'll now come to family life now. We'll start with, how did you meet your wife?
Well, my wife, by the way, my wife is, the mother is from Ife, and the father is from Ife. I met my wife with a friend that we attended secondary schools together, and through him I came to know her, and in the process, that was at Ilorin. This was at Ilorin many years ago. We got married, and in 1987, April 1987. And since then, God has blessed us with wonderful children. And we have boys, we have girls. And we're just moving on. And from year to year, when we look back, we see that this year was better than the previous year. It has been an improvement year after year.
That's a great testimony.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite color?
True, I have really, it depends now. There are instances where I love green. There are instances where I love brown. So it varies. But largely, I would say I love green.
Wow.
But
Why green?
green. That one I picked from my uncle.
Prosperity.
I stayed with an uncle. Yeah, I stayed with an uncle in Ilorin who so much in love with. Somehow I just came to
You have favorite food?
Well, yeah, pounded yam is number one above every other food.
Wow.
Thereafter, any other thing can follow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's good. What about music?
Well, of course, once the tune is good, I
No
go for it.
particular
No, well, when relaxing, I like jazz music.
Okay.
When relaxing,
But
I
do you like
jazz
to
music.
dance?
I like a dance a lot.
Because you're going to dance for us in this program. And if mommy is ready, she will join us as well. So before we go to the dancing segment now, what's your advice to the youth?
Yes, this is my greatest concern.
Okay.
Because when we were growing up, we had vision. Even in our state in which we found ourselves, we had vision. We were very particular about what the future looks like. I can't see that in our youth. And my advice is that please, irrespective of how you were born, irrespective of the state, the economic state of your parents, please have a vision and work towards that vision. Be passionate about your vision. Do all that is legal to achieve that which you desire. And surely it will come to pass. I've said it, if God will raise someone like us with that kind of a low background and brought us to limelight, God can do that for anybody. He will do that. All we need to do is just yield yourself to Him. The most other painful thing is the fact that people don't even give God a place in their life anymore. When we were in the primary school, in the secondary school, you find us in the church. You find us in choir practice. Today, on Sundays, go and look at their churches. The children are not there. Instead, they'll be playing around all over the town. So that gives me a lot of concern. I mean, if you take God out of your situation, you are finished. But if God is in your situation, you can become anything. These are my few words for the youth.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. So on the final note now, what's the parting word on the program? Well,
thank you for this coverage. We believe that as much as you are trying in your own beat, if everybody is doing his beat in his own corner, it makes the world go round and make it worth living in. We quite appreciate all your doings in the past few days, and we will continue to support the program as much as we can. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much for having us around. Okay. And thank you for the privilege of hosting you.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you, viewers. We've come to the end of today's episode, but before we go, he's going to dance with us. So don't go away. Truly that you can dance. He has told me that you can dance. Thank you very much for having us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, viewers.